No, the ayes have it. Honourable members, I understand the next financial review that members wish to debate in the House this afternoon is the financial review of the Ministry of Defence. So would members please turn to the Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Committee's report. And the question before the committee is the report of the Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Committee on the 2010-2011 review of the Ministry of Defence be noted. Would someone like I call the Honourable Minister, Jonathan Coleman.
Mr Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak in this financial review debate. I must say it's a great honour to be the Minister of Defence in this government, and New Zealanders can be very, very proud of the efforts of the New Zealand Defence Force wherever they are serving around the world and here in New Zealand. I had the honour last week, Mr Chair, of spending some time with our people in Afghanistan, and I can tell you it was very, very impressive to see what our people have achieved there over the course of the last decade. Spent some time in Bamiyan province talking to some of the young soldiers who were there, and the ones that were back for a second or even a third deployment, they remarked on how much better things were in the province since they had been deployed there previously. So our people are making very real progress there. They are operating in conditions which are Spartan to say the least. Kiwi base, which we visited, while the facilities there are certainly, adequate for the Defence Force's needs, the fact is these people are there for 6 or 7 months at a time. And really what struck me was the total focus they've got on their work over that period. There really is no let-up. There's relatively little recreation, but what struck me also is the absolute enthusiasm of these young men and women to get on with doing the job. If you're in the NZDF, the highlight for people at the moment is the chance for that overseas deployment to Afghanistan, and I can tell you those young people coming in as Crib 20, which is the 20th rotation, which changed over from Crib 19 while I was there. They were absolutely enthused about the work that lay ahead. I want to point out, though, of course, this is work that carries a high risk for our people, and while Crib 19 were there, they unfortunately lost Corporal Dougie Hughes towards the end of that rotation. That certainly had a real effect on the people who were there. But they just got on with the job, very professional, and continued on their way. 2 days after getting back from Afghanistan, Mr Chair, I had the privilege of going to the ceremony at Government House where Lieutenant Tim O'Donnell's parents were awarded a memorial cross in recognition of the ultimate sacrifice that their family made in terms of their son losing his life in the service of New Zealand. And it just brings home to you that our people in the Defence Force, they put up with a lot and they carry severe risks on our behalf. So in that context, Mr Chair, I just want to speak briefly around the Defence White Paper launched in 2010 by my predecessor, Dr Wayne Mapp, which laid out the vision for the Defence Force over the next 25 years. And at the core of our Defence Force, Mr Chair, is going to be an amphibious task force. So what that paper lays out is the plan for how we are going to configure the resources that we have as a country in terms of defence to meet the expectations of the New Zealand government. And if you look at the range of activity that our people are engaged in defence, a lot of it is actually around humanitarian and disaster relief. If you look at the work they've done in the Pacific, have been doing for many, many years now, a lot of it is in that sphere. But of course, here domestically in New Zealand, the NZDF has played a major role. If you look at the Christchurch earthquake, the NZDF have been at the fore of providing a first line of response there, and indeed territorials have been manning the cordon there right from the start. So a very important role. They're also very important in maintaining our international reputation overseas. I can tell you the work that the SAS has done has meant that New Zealand's reputation at the highest levels of NATO and ISAF, which is the body of coalition forces, is absolutely up there with the best. So when these people are overseas, they are representing their country in a way that reflects very, very well on all of us. Of course, the challenge for all defence forces around the world is to find savings within their baselines to fund future capabilities. And if you look at what we are aiming for, and we're on track to deliver, is savings of $350 to $400 million over the next 4 years. It's what the Australians are having to do, the US are having to do, the UK are doing. And that money is being invested back into new capabilities. So, Mr Chair, I want to tell you that the future for the Defence Force... I will, if I may.
I call the Honourable Minister.
Yep. So what I want to say is those savings are reinvested back into funding new capabilities. And if you look at that 2010-2011 financial year, which was the first year of the savings plan, that produced $47 million of savings that year. And what that went into funding is upgrades for Hercules, upgrades for the P3 Orions. Of course, we've got the helicopter acquisition projects. So it's all going back into first-class, first-line, front-line equipment that we need in order to have the best possible Defence Force. Close-in weapons systems, Mr Chair, for the Anzac frigate. So if you look at what we need into the future from the Defence Force, we are going to have a Defence Force that is flexible. It's configured for our needs here in our immediate area of strategic interest. So in the Pacific, of course, it's able to make the impact that we need it to make at home, but it's also able to contribute internationally to defence efforts in places like Afghanistan. We've got, of course, two people in Syria at the moment contributing to UN missions. We have, Mr Speaker, Mr Chair, over 400 people deployed around the world in 19 countries, making a real international impact. But the key, really, if you look at this financial review, it's about making the savings that fund the capabilities that the NZDF need into the future. And without those savings, without the continued investment in new capabilities, we wouldn't have the Defence Force that we're going to need in the decades to come. So the outlook is good, Mr Chair, and very proud to take this call as the Minister of Defence. Thank you.
The question is that the report of the Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Committee on the 2010-2011 financial review of the Ministry of Defence be noted. Those of that opinion will please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it.
No contribution from Labour.
Honourable members, I understand the next financial review members wish to debate is the financial review of the New Zealand Defence Force. Will members please turn to the Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Committee's report.